Local author is launching 3 children's books: Beezy the Baby Bumblebee, Tweedle the Beetle, and Wizzy the Wiggle Worm.
And this is not your traditional author. It's a former surgeon who is now 90 years old. And we're so happy to have Dr. David Trucker with us here today to talk about these really cool books. Thanks so much for coming in today.
Thank you, Heather. Appreciate it.
Tell us the story. What made you write some children's books?
Well, actually, this is quite ironic in that in 1967, I was asked by the Shah of Iran to see the Bajani Siamese twins in Shiraz, Iran. And those are the only 2 in history, as you know, who have been combined at the head.
Right.
And at that time, they were 2 years old, and they had not done any walking. They were abandoned orphans, and therefore I spent 3 days with a physical therapist to teach them, number 1, how to strengthen the legs, number 2, how to stand, and number 3, the initial aspect of walking, which was a little tricky because their feet went in different directions.
Because you're an orthopedic surgeon.
Yes.
By trade, and so that was part of the reason that you were there.
Well, the Shah of Iran was a good friend of my boss at the University of Minnesota, where I worked 50% of the time. So I was on a mission to Iran and Afghanistan, where I worked as a TB surgeon.
So we're talking about, you know, decades and decades ago. How did we get then here today to Tweedle the Beetle and Beezy the Baby Bumblebee?
Actually, my second trip there had to be aborted because of the revolution. I got there and had to turn around and come back. And then in 2003, the girls had surgery and died. That upset me. I was working at the Marshfield Clinic at the time, and I said, I'm going to write some books to commemorate those 2 girls, since they're the only ones in history to have gone through what they went through. So I wrote these. Actually, 6 years ago, I wrote Tweedle's Tales, and then because of life circumstances, I wasn't able to get to these until a year and a half ago. I did Tweedle the Beetle, and last year I did Wizzy the Wiggle Worm and Beezy the Bumblebee.
And all these books are set up kind of on a premise of there's a challenge, there's an obstacle, and then there's overcoming it.
That is correct.
Yeah. It's important for kids, don't you think?
Pardon me?
It's important for kids to hear.
Absolutely, particularly on Tweedle the Beetle. I know how little boys step on bugs on the sidewalk. I really stress in here the importance. All the bugs are necessary for our survival and our environment. And we just describe how Tweedle overcomes his problems and is able to accomplish survival of himself and his friends. And then with Wizzy the Wiggle Worm, as you know, scoliosis is more common in girls. So Wizzy is a little worm that has scoliosis. And when she walks, people laugh. So what we had to do is figure out a way so that she could walk and people could join in, which they did with music.
And the final book, Beezy the Baby Bumblebee, can you find these on Amazon? Where can you find these?
Amazon and Barnes & Noble.
Great. Thank you so much, Dr. Trucker. So nice to meet you, and thanks for sharing these books and for writing them.
Thank you kindly.